hopefully morning by the time that this comes out. I think I fixed some of my computer woes. It still takes a good 2 hours to get this up, but not like the other day when it took me like 4. So anyway, enough of the excuses. The morning drip. Thank you for joining. Big game tomorrow at Nebraska. Wanted to give some of my keys to this matchup, especially because it's I think a lot of people out there are like, why is this being called a big game? Why is it? Listen, Nebraska is a lot better than what people think. Now, that said, it is kind of a who have they played, because they're, no, not quite, because, I mean, Oklahoma, Michigan State. But they played both of those teams incredibly close. They should have won against Michigan State. They gave that game away. It was a 3-point game against Oklahoma, but their wins, their blowout wins, what really makes them the number 11 offense in the country has been wins against Fordham, Buffalo, and Northwestern. So, yes, but there is the number 11 offense in the country. Michigan has not faced an offense of this caliber. Obviously, Adrian Martinez is a danger area into and of himself, because dual threat quarterback, they run a triple option type scenario. It didn't look good when Josh Ross wasn't in and Noah Vedral from Rutgers was running against Michigan. But granted, he was running in the middle. There was no Josh Ross to make him, not to put the fear of God into him. But nonetheless, it's still going to be a tough challenge, because none of Michigan's offenses that they have faced have been in the top half, I don't believe, of college football. So this is a different challenge, right? Has the defense been able to tee off against bad offenses or not? And you know what? I think you should prefer it this way, right? Because even though it's one of those things where it's like, well, they haven't been tested. Yeah, but they've gotten confidence in what they're doing. They've learned what they're doing. They weren't thrown into the fire like they were a year ago. And I felt like this team needed that. They needed the non-conference. This team needed to be able to go into the harder parts of the schedule, kind of having a stronger sense of self. So that's what they have. So I think that that's going to be very beneficial going in, especially because they've already got one big road win. And I read Scott Bell's newsletter last night, which you should subscribe, and you should too. Friend of the site and the podcast, Scott Bell. He talked about, I don't remember what he talked about, but he talked about something. So I guess it's just a random plug for Scott Bell. But nonetheless, I think it's important that they've been battle tested. They weren't necessarily battle tested, but built a sense of identity and know what they're trying to do. Having Mike Macdonald, Scott talked about this as well, but I also talked about it in the podcast last night. Mike Macdonald's having been a defensive coordinator on a team that has Lamar Jackson, that should at least give you some idea of how to defend Adrian Martinez. And certainly Michigan did a really good job under Don Brown in 2018 when Nebraska came. I remember what he had said. It's a little bit different playing Wisconsin at noon in Camp Randall than playing a hungry Nebraska team and its fan base at home at night. Now, Memorial Stadium is a bigger stadium than Camp Randall by not much, but still, we're looking at 80,000 to 90,000. You wonder how many Michigan fans made the trip. It's a harder trip to make. Can't imagine that that's easy. I mean, I obviously made it in. I'm flying in later today to Lincoln, and but I mean, when I was looking at ticket prices for a while, it was like I might have to drive, and that's a 10-hour drive. So you wonder how many, I don't know that there will be that pocket the same way of Michigan fans that are able to do the chants and things that they were doing at Camp Randall last week. But to me, the biggest thing is this defense versus the Nebraska offense. The next part is I want to see what the offense is able to do against the Nebraska defense. The Nebraska defense is a lot better than people think. That said, the offense has been battle tested. Whether it's a MAC team or not, The Western Michigan Broncos, last I had checked, which was a week ago, so certainly this is an outdated number, was in the upper echelon of defenses, and yet Michigan went nuts all over them, right? Wisconsin, a week ago, was number 2 at the time. Now it's number 3 because Michigan pushed that defense down. So you know that they've been battle-tested, at least somewhat. Washington, obviously, also a very good defense. So you have to have a little bit more faith in the offense, and it's funny because I feel like people haven't really had faith in the offense. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to see a whole lot more than what you're seeing, but hopefully we see more of what we saw last week and more efficiency from Cade McNamara. How do they respond yet again? I don't anticipate that this team is going to be overconfident. This is a team that's constantly saying we haven't done anything yet. The players have said, we know what will happen the moment we lose our first game and how much the fan base, our own fans, are going to lose faith in us and how much they're going to say, this is what we expected from this team all along. They aren't very good. I don't expect them to be overconfident whatsoever. I think they'll be able to go in and execute well, but they still have yet to be punched in the mouth truly. Michigan has not trailed at any point in time in the 2021 season. Think about that. We are 5 games in. Michigan has played Washington. Michigan has played Wisconsin. Heck, Michigan trailed last year against Rutgers. Not this year. Yeah, it was dicey for a minute, but never was Michigan truly in harm's way. Michigan never trailed against Wisconsin. That's pretty incredible, considering how a lot of those games have gone. Certainly, Nebraska presents a different challenge because we've seen them play tough teams, tough themselves. But I think that Michigan especially has an advantage in 2 areas. Number 1, Nebraska's offensive line is arguably the worst in all of college football. Now, vis-a-vis going against maybe like a not good group of 5 team, probably not. But in terms of the stats, they give up pressures like it's their job. The problem is Adrian Martinez is still really good at getting rid of the football and making plays with his legs and so on and so forth. But if Michigan can, first of all, get pressure, force him into bad decisions, and 2, execute on that end, whether it's the front end or the back end, execute. If he's running around, you got to tackle him. If he's running around, you can't tackle him, force him into a bad throw, get the pick. Nebraska is dead even in turnover margin. The other thing is special teams. If you go to my By the Numbers piece on WolverinesWire, which tells you what Michigan's offense looks like against Nebraska's defense, you'll see that the Cornhuskers stack up pretty well. Special teams, however, not so much. They are incapable of doing much of anything when it comes to the special teams. They don't return anything. They don't punt particularly well. They don't kick off particularly well. They don't cover particularly well. They don't kick field goals particularly well. You have to win 2 of the 3 phases of the game in order to win a game, as Jim Harbaugh once said. I think you have an advantage, Michigan's offense versus Nebraska's defense, and you certainly have an advantage on special teams. But obviously the offense has to execute. And if it doesn't, the defense, well, it better figure a way to stop the best offense it's seen so far. Anyway, we will talk on Monday, and we will see in the bye week if this is a Michigan team that has remained undefeated. I am going against the grain, I think, a little bit. I am not predicting a close game. I think it will be close for a while, but I think Michigan will balloon the score a bit in the end because I think that they will kind of, like 2018, kind of defeat the trenches, defeat the will of the trenches, rather. So I'm predicting a 45-24 win by Michigan. So anyhow, we will be back next week. Happy watching.